Welcome, Mesa E here. I'm sitting in my virtual RV-7 that I built for X-Plane based on my real RV-7 that I built in real life over a period of about 9 years. I'm a full-time professional pilot and I'm gone about half the time, so I probably could have built it in half the time if I wasn't gone half the time. Anyway, the response that I got when I uploaded this to xplane.org was a lot of fun for me, and I thought some might find it interesting if I did a short flight with some aerobatic maneuvers as realistically as possible, flying the virtual RV-7 just the way I would fly the real one, perhaps omitting a couple of more tedious system-specific procedures, since the systems on this airplane are different from those on the real airplane just a little bit. This has a Garmin-like panel, and my panel is Aerobatic, and so on and so forth. So before we taxi out of here, let's double check the weather and the weight and balance. Aerobatic, maximum gross weight is 1,600. Here's the pilot, that's me. Passenger and baggage are 0, and we have half a tank of gas. That's good. Wind is southeasterly at 6 knots. The altimeter setting is 2994. Set altimeter 2994.
Altimeter 2994.
That was plane command responding to my voice commands. Set heading 162.
Heading 162 degrees.
I'm taxiing eastbound along taxiway Alpha 3, and just to the left of the nose you can see the beacon tower. At the real airport there is a concrete navigation arrow at the base of the beacon tower. It can be seen from the air. If you're interested in archaic navigation systems, you can research those. This airport, by the way, you can't see it from here, but the hangar is modeled where Zivco Aeronautics is headquartered, and that's where the world-famous Edge 540 aircraft is built. I don't think they're building very many of those nowadays. In fact, I know they're not. But that's quite an airplane, and they're built right here in Guthrie, Oklahoma. We started our taxi right in front of where our real hangar is as well. The RV-7 eye height is designed so that the pilot just see over the nose. So it's up to the builder to set the cushion thickness appropriate to his or her height. I see the sign for runway 16, so we verified this is the correct runway. Set heading 162.
Heading 162 degrees.
This attitude indicator has been modified with a G meter that pops up above 2 positive and below 1 negative G. You'll see that during the aerobatic maneuvering. Fuel pump is on. Flaps are up. Fuel selector's on the left tank. That's the aerobatic tank on my left, on my real airplane. That's the one with the flop tube. The right tank does not have a flop tube. Prop is forward, mixture's forward. External lights are set for takeoff. This model is a model of an RV-7 with a tip-up canopy which is hinged in the front, and the bows are behind the seats. My airplane has a slider canopy, so the bows are above the instrument panel, and there would be a latch in this area that I would double check to ensure it's properly latched before takeoff. Checking final, it's clear. We already verified this is the correct runway. The aircraft is configured for takeoff. The runway looks clear. I don't see anybody on it. Guthrie traffic RV-64 Echo Bravo departing runway 16 to the east. Guthrie. Taking the runway. Stick full back, as is appropriate for taxiing a tailwheel airplane in light winds. I'll start the takeoff roll with the stick full back, or nearly so, but it'll come forward quickly within a matter of seconds, and the takeoff will be over very, very quickly. I've been airborne before the throttle was fully open. The data window in the upper left will record my takeoff distance. Let's see what we end up with. Smoothly advance throttle to full so we don't overspeed the propeller. Stick coming forward, tail is up, 52 knots, and we are airborne in 451 feet. Accelerating now. I don't normally climb at VY. I normally climb at 110 to 120 knots. That's true, I think, of most RV owners and pilots. Nose is pretty high at VY, and the airplane climbs really well at almost any speed, any reasonable speed. You get better visibility and better engine cooling at a higher airspeed. So we have more than 400 feet above the ground. I'm looking to the left, it's clear, and I am turning to the left. Normally I would go north or north-northeast to do aerobatics between Guthrie and Stillwater, Oklahoma. But in the interest of saving time, I'm going to go just to the east of the airport and keep it nice and close to the airport, closer than I normally would. Set heading 090.
Heading 090 degrees.
Bringing the RPM back to 2,600. I did some modeling recently, the difference between climbing at 25 and 25 versus full throttle and 26. Predictably, I get to altitude faster climbing at full throttle in 2600, and I use less fuel, which may be a surprise, but you spend less time climbing, so the math actually works out in favor of climbing at the higher power setting. Looking for 3,500. Between 110 and 120 knots cruise climb speed. We're headed east away from the airport. Before any dedicated aerobatic session, I do some high G warm-up and clearing turns are combined. Going to gain a little bit of airspeed. I don't need to dive this airplane for any maneuver. Setting power is enough. It accelerates very quickly. So I'm going to start with a left turn, 90 degrees from east to north. 3.5 to 4 Gs. That felt good. Now I'm going to turn 360 degrees to the right. I've gained a little bit of altitude. See if I can correct that. Alright, I'm losing it. The altitude, that is. There I am through the west, approaching the north. Look ahead and rolling out, heading north. Going to regain some airspeed that I lost in the turn. All those G's do slow the airplane down. This short, fat wing is not super efficient at high angles of attack, but it does its mission very well. 145 is plenty of airspeed to get around a loop. I'm doing all this maneuvering just the same way I would do it in the real airplane. So I'm looking left because I can't see the horizon over the nose. Now I look forward. I'm making corrections in yaw and bank, slowing the rate of pitch. As the airspeed decreases, now it's increasing, so I'm pulling harder. And there's the wake. Yeah, I hit my entry wake there quite distinctly, just like in real life. All right, next is a hammerhead. I still have plenty of airspeed for that, so we'll see how well this turns out. 3.5 to 4 G pull-up. Set the upline. Looking for 40 knots. There it is. Here's the yaw. There's the stop. Set the vertical down line. A little bit of bobbling there. Here's the pull. Right at 3,500 feet. Now for a Cuban 8. Here's a pull. Going to do 5/8 of a loop and set a descending 45 degree downline with a half roll to upright on the downline. Setting this, hold that for a second. Roll to upright, hold the downline now. Full throttle again, pulling I bottomed out pretty close to my entry altitude, but I was off heading. Forward and up. Set the downline. Continue the downline, full throttle, full level off, about 100 feet below my entry altitude, correcting the yaw. Now for a reverse cubinate, that's where we establish the climbing 45-degree upline. We do a half roll in the middle of that. So pull, nice and hard, set the climb, look for a cloud, roll on it, continue the upline. I want to make sure I hold this upline long enough that my airspeed bleeds off. I'm holding forward pressure on the stick. I'm holding the nose up, gently allowing it to fall, allowing the airspeed to increase. Now I'm pulling harder and harder, faster and faster pitch rate. Continue right on through. I hit my wake. That's what that bobble was about. There's the 45-degree upline for the second half of the maneuver. Overrolled a bit, look left, and I let my nose come down too far. I want to make sure my speed bleeds off, otherwise I may overspeed during the looping recovery. Increasing the rate of pitch, and there's level. Hit a little bit of the wake, not too much, and I bottomed out a little bit under my entry altitude. Alright, now I'm going to set about 24 inches of manifold pressure and about 2600 RPM, and I'm going to roll upside down and seek my altitude. Alright, as soon as I rolled upside down, I lost a little bit of altitude, so I've gained it back. And now if I was to do a straight climb, inverted, I would need to hold left rudder. Now I've pushed too hard there. I've gained quite a lot of altitude. I need to fix that. Too busy flapping my jaw. That was a 90-degree turn to pilot's left. And I'm all over the place with the altitude here. Let's see if I can concentrate a little bit better. I'm headed west now. Let's see if I can get my altitude back. I'm headed sort of toward the airport. A little hard to concentrate on looking for the airport right now. Alright, I'm above my altitude. Now I'm turning back to pilot's right, which should have me rolling out on a heading of south. There we go. Alright, now I'm rolling into a turn to pilot's right. I'm holding forward pressure. You can see the G meter cutting in and out as I momentarily exceed 1 negative G. So I mentioned a moment ago, if you're climbing straight inverted, you hold left rudder opposite the right rudder that you would need if you were climbing upright. And here I'm rolling out with right aileron and left rudder. Up, I let the nose drop again. And now it's time to roll upright. And there's the airport. Guthrie traffic, RV-64 Echo Bravo is 2 miles east on a 45 entry for a left downwind, runway 16, Guthrie. Looking for traffic on my airplane. I have 3D traffic on the PFD, and on the multifunction display, traffic displays there as well from the ADS-B input. So, quick pre-landing check. The fuel pump is still on. I never turned it off, which is just fine. Guthrie traffic, RV-64 Echo Bravo, turning left downwind, runway 16, Guthrie. I like to get my first notch of flaps out about abeam the touchdown point. I'm already below 95, which is the maximum speed for 20 degrees of flaps. So here come the flaps. You can see the flap indicator move on the mini HUD down there in the lower left. My real airplane has flap and trim indicators and all kinds of engine information on the primary flight display along the bottom strip. Getting a little close on the downwind here, so I'm going to turn out a little bit. Shooting for about 75 to 80 knots. And propellers coming forward. Mixture is already full rich. I never leaned it. Check my position. Turning base, Guthrie traffic, RV-64 Echo Bravo, turning left base, 16 Guthrie. Below 86 knots, I've just extended flaps to 30. Well above the path, which is how I like it in the single-engine airplane. This airplane will come down very rapidly if you bring the throttle to idle, a little faster than is comfortable. Rolling out on final since I'm high. Flaps are fully extended, 40 degrees now. You can verify that with the indicator on the mini HUD. The PAPIs are correct in every respect. They're in the correct location, the correct number of boxes, the correct side of the runway, the correct projection angle. It's all very impressive. I'm allowing the airplane to sink fairly rapidly to intercept the glide path somewhere about just before I get to the touchdown point. Looking for about 70 knots, maybe just a little less. The wind is light, the turbulence is light. Re-landing check is complete. There we are, on path momentarily, going under the path, which is what I want. Using power to arrest the sink now, gradually reducing the throttle to idle, leading off the speed, attempting a 3-point landing here. There it is. Full aft stick, light on the brakes, looking for taxiway Alpha 3. There it is. I can just make it out over the nose to the right. Flaps coming up. I don't mind retracting the flaps on the runway in this airplane because I cannot accidentally retract the gear on this airplane unless I make a really hard landing. Guthrie traffic, RV-64 Echo Bravo is off the runway. Guthrie looking left and right so I don't run into any crossing traffic. I'm facing, once again, my home hangar. I'm going to taxi this in front of my hangar exactly the way I would do it in real life. These buildings aren't exact representations, they're procedural, but they are generally about the right size, position, and height compared to the real airport. I'm looking for the middle hangar. The texture implies that there are 6 hangars in this building, but I believe there are only 5, and ours is the center. So I'll just pick one closest to the center. The pavement looks just about exactly right. So in the real airplane, I would turn the main wheels onto the asphalt, do a 180, and then put the mains back onto the concrete. And now I'm in essentially the exact same position I would be just prior to shutting down the real airplane. And now I'll hop out of the airplane, open the hangar door, and get my truck out so I can push the airplane in. Thank you for watching. If you made it this far, I'm really impressed and very honored and humbled. And if you have any comments, I'd like to see them.